On this week's Vaticano, Pope Francis celebrates the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe in St. Peter's Basilica with an Argentine touch, plus a nativity scene of Bethlehem in its most delicious form. Watch how an artist friend of the Pope's turns scrap metal into art, and we give you a look at 8 men who have one of the most peculiar jobs in the Vatican. All this, plus the mosaic studio of the Vatican, creates a unique copy of Our Lady, most dear to St. John Paul II. And we wish you a very Merry Christmas in the Roman way, in Latin, coming up on Vaticano. On Friday, December the 12th, the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, Pope Francis celebrated a Mass in her honor, along with over 700 priests, bishops, and cardinals from across the Americas. The image of Our Lady is miraculous, and she is held as the Queen of the Americas. Her image has a special meaning for Advent.
In that image, she is a lady pregnant. She weighed a baby. She is woman of Advent, the Lent. And this is the point most important. This is the focus in the image, because she weighed Jesus Christ.
The Mass was a festive occasion which represented just how alive the faith is in the Americas.
It means a lot because, first of all, it's celebrating our Mother of Guadalupe, that is the Empress of all our continent, not only of Mexico, but the entire American country. No? Our Lady of Guadalupe unites us from the north to the south of the continent. But secondly, for me was very significant that this celebration was celebrated with the Pope that comes from Latin America here in the Vatican. And especially my experience was to see the heart of the faith of our continent, America, vibrating and being celebrated here in the heart of the entire Universal Church. Half of the church now prays in Spanish, or half of the church is in America, no? In the north and in the center and in the south. So I think that he's talking about that our continent is the hope of the church, but that this means a great responsibility for all of us, no? Because it's not only a matter of being proud, no? Because the Catholics that live in North and South America, the half of the church, no. That means our great responsibility to keep the faith alive, and also to give testimony and to share that faith through evangelization with others. And that expression, a continent of hope, I think the first who spoke about that was Saint John Paul II. So the Holy Father is keeping this expression nowadays for us, no?
For a couple of hours, Latin America was present in the Vatican. It was a Creole Mass composed by a fellow Argentine and celebrated in St. Peter's. For Our Lady, patroness of the Americas feast.
In her light today, we feel moved to ask a grace. The Christian grace that the future of Latin America may be forged by the poor and those who suffer, by the humble, by those who hunger and thirst for justice, by the compassionate, by those with a clean heart, by those who work for peace, by those persecuted for the name of Christ, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. May it be a grace forged by those whom today are relegated by the idolatrous system of the throwaway culture to the category of slaves, objects to be exploited or simply wasted. And we make this petition because Latin America is the continent of hope, because it is from her that new models of development that conjoin Christian tradition and civil progress, justice and equity with reconciliation, scientific and technological development with human knowledge, fruitful suffering with hopeful joy. It is only possible to protect that hope with large doses of truth and love, the foundations of all reality. the revolutionary motors of authentic new life.
I feel great because I feel that all the peoples of America, of the whole continent, were represented with religious, priests, bishops, cardinals, and many families, many young people. So the Pope really touched our hearts because he's one of us. He has lived his own vocation, embraced with the love and the care of the Blessed Virgin de Guadalupe. All America Latina, but all America, all the continent of America has 500 years of evangelization. And we have many challenges. In our hearts is the love of Christ, is faith, is hope, is a lot of love. But we have many challenges because we have to overcome injustice, violence, and many circumstances and situations that goes against human dignity. So we can do it, we can make it if we really trust God and we follow Jesus Christ as the Blessed Virgin Mary teaches.
At the end of the Mass, a silver rose was given to Pope Francis. It has a special significance.
The rose of Our Lady of Guadalupe coming until the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. All this organization was denied to Columbus. And after, from Mexico City, here in the shrine of St. Peter, in this beautiful celebration with the Pope Francis. When I arrived to the Holy Father, I said exactly this. This rose represents the suffering, the sickness, the many bad things in our people. But at the same time, the hope, the joy of the faith in you, Holy Father, because you give us the joy to live our church. For that, this rose, meaning also that it's true. God came among us through Our Lady Guadalupe, and this is the sign, the rose.
Pope Francis, during his Angelus prayer on Gaudete Sunday, the third Sunday of Advent, emphasized that we are in expectation of the infant Jesus, that he will come to us at Christmas.
On this third Sunday of Advent, the liturgy proposes to us an inner attitude with which to await the Lord. Joy. Man's heart desires joy. We all wish for joy. Every family, every population aspires to happiness. But what is the joy that the Christian is required to live and bear witness to? It is that which comes from the closeness to God, from His presence in our life. Ever since Jesus entered into history with His birth in Bethlehem, humanity has received the germ of the kingdom of God, like the terrain that receives the seed, the promise of a future harvest. There is no need to search elsewhere. Jesus has come to bring joy to all forever. It is not merely a hope for joy or a joy postponed to paradise. Here on earth we are sad, but in paradise we will be joyful. No, it is not this, but rather it is a joy that is already real and that can be experienced now, because Jesus Himself is our joy, and with Jesus our home is joyful.
Pope Francis gave a special blessing for the baby Jesus statues to go in nativity scenes after the Angelus. Jesus was made man and born in a manger. The traditional nativity scene remembers this event. In Rome, there's a special collection of nativity scenes from all over the world displayed every year. This is the 100 Nativity Scenes exhibit's 39th annual edition. Variety is the norm here, from life-size clay models from Mexico to this Italian miniature in a clamshell. Curiosities for all ages, nativity scenes for all tastes. The idea was born 2 generations ago by a Roman. Today his daughter is carrying on the tradition.
Every year we had a nativity scene at home, even if it wasn't finished until a minute before midnight on Christmas Eve. So he thought to ask some artist friends if they would be able to make a show with a few creches. It started with 20 or 30, and little by little it grew. This year there are 212, which come from 14 Italian regions and 42 countries. It is truly a full success.
This year they declined more than 200 entries just for lack of space.
Every year we have new nativity scenes. What strikes me always anew is the creativity and the workmanship. There are obviously the classical scenes, which are made in the traditional style, like the Sicilian ones, for example, from Puglia or from Naples. But then there are very creative renderings of the subject, with special materials used. This one is made of pasta. There is another with shoelaces. There are miniature nativity scenes made in a seashell.
The exhibition is open for the whole time of Christmas and can be seen until January the 6th.
This holiday season, there's one food item that will be on every Italian table, the classic panettone. It's Italy's version of sweetbread, world-renowned for its richness. However, these days, the art of making one from scratch and transforming it into a masterpiece is a Roman tradition, one passed down from generation to generation in honor of the Nativity.
The idea of designing the nativity scene on the classic panettone using chocolate and preparing it from scratch is a tradition passed down by my father here at Giolitti. My father was the creator of this idea, of this type of artisanal work of transforming the classic panettone into a unique masterpiece. Of course, if you visit other places, you'll find something similar. However, not as original as the one you'll find here. It's a tradition I witnessed and learned as a child and continue to do today with love.
It is this love and passion for tradition that turns this historic ice cream parlor in the heart of Rome into an assembly line of creativity this time of year. Nazareno and Francesco cut each and every panettone to the perfect size, dipping each slice of panettone into melted hot chocolate, molding chocolate into solid slices or wedges to create the grotta, the stable where baby Jesus joins his mother Mary, Joseph, and the farm animals, and an entire city ready to welcome our Lord and Savior with sugar-sprinkled snow. This classic panettone is a divine masterpiece to be admired and almost too beautiful to consume.
Everything on the panettone is edible. Everything. Except, of course, the main characters. For me, it is difficult to see people cut into them after so much work to design them. It hurts a little when people ruin them by eating them. Oh well.
Don't expect to spot the three kings. They came way after the birth of baby Jesus for their slice. Happy holidays from Rome.
Stick around. After the break, we'll introduce you to an artist friend of the Pope displaying his works in the Vatican. Thanks for watching. This is Vaticano. Two new sculptures that reflect Pope Francis' teaching have been installed in the Vatican gardens. 43-year-old Argentine Alejandro Marmo is a personal friend of the Pope's and a disciple of his vision for countering a throwaway culture. So much so, in fact, that he literally takes scrap metal and turns it into art.
They weighed about 1,500 pounds apiece. It's scrap iron and different materials that have been thrown away from some old churches. For example, the iron grates from churches that had been discarded at the pontifical villas in Castel Gandolfo, and today are part of this powerful message of not belonging to a throwaway culture and creating from and interpreting the words of the Holy Father. I chose the Holy Father as my pastor when he was a cardinal, and I follow his word and try to interpret what he says. I believe that he is a pope who is opening the doors of the church and is liberating all Christians of our faults. This great pastoral work is uniting all the people of the church. I am one who is brought close by this message of not being part of the culture of waste. For me, he is a father, and he is the father of the people where I came from.
es el padre de un pueblo donde yo pertenezco.
The images chosen by the artist for the papal commission are of the Virgin Mary, patroness of Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and Christ the Worker, crucified.
Para mí la Virgen de Luján como el Cristo.
For me, Our Lady of Luján and Christ the Worker here in the Vatican already existed. I consider that these works exist long before you come up with the idea. It's just about the invisible, and although they were not yet visible in the gardens, they were already here a long time ago. I think that's what art is, being able to be an accomplice to the invisible. So the patroness of Luján has long been here, and I was just bringing her message to life.
De portar ese mensaje de lo invisible que ya existe, ¿no?
For the artist, it's not just the artwork that makes the art.
Yo creo que estas esculturas portan un mensaje.
I think that these pieces carry a message. I don't know if it is art or not. Time will tell, because time is the only art critic that I consider decides what is art or not. But I think that the message contains art, and that everything that is discarded in society can be newly incorporated through an aesthetics of hope. In these two sculptures, what we are trying to do is conform to this message that Pope Francis offers, which is not to fall into a throw-away culture.
Que es no caer en la cultura del descarte.
In the heart of the church, 7 men have a unique task. Monsignor Daniel Gallagher is the only American among them.
I'm responsible with my colleagues for writing all of Pope Francis's Latin. Anything that has an official statue in the church, whether it be a decision to create a new diocese or appoint a new bishop or accredit an ambassador, these letters all have to be written in Latin. And so our job, my job, and the job of my 6 colleagues is to constantly keep writing that correspondence, those letters that Francis is directly responsible for signing, or the Cardinal Secretary of State is responsible for signing on the Pope's behalf in the Pope's name.
Their work is evident in documents like papal bulls. Say this one, read at Mass 3 years ago in the Basilica of St. Peter in Chains, when Cardinal Donald Wuerl took possession of it as his Roman Church. Latin isn't dead, but sometimes it just needs a little tweaking for the modern world and media communications.
Latinists spend a lot of time thinking about how to keep the vocabulary both faithful to the tradition, what we call the corpus or the body of Latin literature, but also fresh for internet and Twitter and Facebook and all of that. So you do have to create new words, but you can do them by going to the sources and finding ways in which Cicero may have expressed this or that, and trying to give weight to what already exists in the Latin language.
Monsignor Gallagher's days are spent as few others on earth, speaking, reading, and writing Latin. So the decision to do away with Latin during this year's Synod of Bishops in the Vatican took him by surprise.
I think it's a disappointment. I know, well, it is a disappointment that the language is not being used so actively because it did have a place in the Synod of Bishops for so long. However, to be honest, the disappointment that I experience from that is somewhat limited in that I see other places in which Latin is thriving. And I see places in which Latin is thriving also outside of the church. And I'm extremely pleased about this because people are learning about the importance of Christianity for history precisely because they chose to study Latin as a language. And you can't study Latin as a language without reading Augustine and Jerome and all these Christian authors, in addition to Cicero and Seneca and Livy and Virgil and Terentius.
So the language of the church remains alive for future generations to come.
Christmas in Rome is a very special time of year. Besides the tree lighting ceremony at the Vatican and before midnight Mass, families will gather around the table on Christmas Eve to celebrate with a feast of traditional dishes such as fish, a medley of vegetables, pasta, and a spread of desserts. For those in Rome on such a special night, there are home restaurants in Rome that offer an authentic local experience with a menu that will entice anyone to stop in.
Cene Romane is a marketplace for people traveling to Rome, for travelers, looking for a special experience, for new benefit when they are traveling to a country and to a city like Rome. The marketplace connects these people with a community of hosts, a community of people living in Rome, eager to share her passion for cooking with an international audience. On the website, ceneromane.com, you can find a variety of locations and menus people can choose for booking a wonderful dinner and having a wonderful experience with real and authentic experience with real Roman local people, with real Roman, chatting around the table. They share the dinner, they share the evening together, eating and chatting.
To experience this firsthand, one host, passionate for food, opened the doors to her home and allowed us to experience what travelers can expect from this unique opportunity without ever setting foot in the kitchen. From the welcoming aperitivo to dessert, this host has it all under control.
For sure, hospitality and the good food, because Italian people is very famous for this. And Roman too, I'm Roman. And then I love to cook, and I love the food. And I try to transfer this love to the other people.
So what's on the menu?
For Christmas Eve, I prepare the entree is an octopus, a slice of octopus, into the salad valeriana. And for pasta, I prepare gnocchetti. Is something like pasta with flour and potatoes, with clam, tomato, and rughetta. Then I prepare for second the slice of tuna fish in orange sauce and mint, and fritto with vegetable, artichoke, zucchini, and broccoli. And then dessert. Dessert is a very special dessert. It's a very old dessert from Roman people. It's called mostaccioli, and it's very interesting because the same dessert we can find even in Israel. Then in Rome there is a very big community of Jewish people. You can find in this side of Rome, is ghetto, called ghetto, you can find very nice and very good mostaccioli.
It's little wonder why it's often been said, chi mangia bene, mangia italiano.
Stay tuned. After the break, you'll get a glimpse of a mosaic copy of Our Lady and enjoy the chant of Christmas carols in Latin. Thanks for watching. This is Vaticano. This is the famous Fabric of St. Peter mosaic studio. We were allowed inside as they were finalizing the exact replica of the Mater Ecclesiae mosaic that stands watch over St. Peter's Square. This young Romanian artist knocked out the replica in just 5 months.
The original image is a fresco that is found in St. Peter's Basilica. And this copy was made for Pope John Paul II after he was able to recover from that attempt on his life. After he was shot, he thanked Our Lady for saving him, and he dedicated this mosaic, which is now visible in St. Peter's Square.
This same studio made the original, and the replica is just one of many works they produced over the last year. Most are depictions of other works. This one is no exception, but it's still unique.
It's a beautiful thing to be working on this. This is a mosaic that's been copied many times, but never in the original size, and not for such an important event as this museum that will be inaugurated for John Paul II. So it's an honor. What is the challenge? To be able to reproduce this image faithfully. I look at the original fresco, and I can understand their work and the way that they interpreted it. They gave it more color, because the fresco's colors are rather bland. But they knew that this would be placed high up and far away, so they decided to add more vivacious colors, so as to be able to see them when you see it from afar.
The mosaic studio often completes works to be used as papal gifts to visiting heads of state, or for the Pope to give to the heads of state he visits on his travels. They use the same techniques and materials they've used for centuries. There's no reason to stop, they say. They know it works, and they know their work has the imprimatur of the popes.
We know that the mosaic was liked by John Paul II, and we know it also because in the following years, John Paul II ordered to the studio many other subjects inspired to the Mater Ecclesia of the square, so donated in many occasions. So we know that he liked the subject. So.
In Rome, around Christmas time, you can hear traditional carols with a special touch. This event is organized by the Rome branch of the Paideia Institute, an organization that promotes the study of classical humanities through academic programming and the exercise of spoken Latin. But it's not just speech, it's also song. On that note, we wish all of our viewers a very Merry Christmas.